There is a wrong way to ask God for guidance. And one of those ways is to be extremely arrogant and full of yourself and full of doubt. That is how the Pharisees and the religious leaders are approaching Jesus. They're asking him, or they're going to ask him for a sign. Why don't you show us? Why don't you prove to us that you are this Messiah? Well, he has already given them plenty of signs already, and we can see the terseness, the tartness by which Jesus responds to these religious leaders. Keep in mind, too, that John the Baptist asked a very similar question. Even we could say that it's the same question. If you remember when John was in prison, he sent messengers to Jesus and say, "Can you tell us, are you the one that we were supposed to be waiting for, or should we wait for another?" And you can see the response to Jesus, or the response of Jesus, is different. He said, "Look at what I have done." He pointed to the signs that he had done. So it's not necessarily the act of asking for guidance or asking for clarification from God is wrong. It's how we are doing it, in the heart behind it. We know the Pharisees and religious leaders, their heart was very arrogant, and they had already chosen not to believe even before Jesus gave them this answer. So then some of the scribes and Pharisees answered him, because you remember this whole section, Jesus is really going at these religious leaders. He's confronting them. And they asked him, "Teacher, we wish to see a sign from you." But he answered, "An evil and adulterous generation seeks for a sign." In fact, he's saying, "You'll never be happy with whatever I do. I've already done signs, and you always want something more. But no sign will be given to it except," so here's the major sign, "except the sign of the prophet Jonah." What's the sign of the prophet Jonah? "For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." So he's saying, it is my death and then it is my resurrection that is ultimately going to prove that I am the Christ, that I am God. The men of Nineveh, those that Jonah prophesied to, will rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. For they repented at the preaching of Jonah. And behold, something greater than Jonah is here. You've heard my preaching, and that actually should be enough for you, you religious leaders. But these folks, the folks of Nineveh, the capital Syria, the capital city of Assyria, is going to be they're going to be actually the ones to condemn the religious leaders of Jesus's day, because obviously someone far greater than Jonah is there. It is Jesus. And then he gives another story about the Queen of Sheba, the queen of the south that comes and visits Solomon. He says, "The queen of the south will rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. For she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, something greater than Solomon is here." If you see, both of these examples are focused on words and hearing and responding to a message. The Queen of Sheba heard about all the wisdom of Solomon, and she made a great journey to see Solomon, and to see the temple, and to see everything that he'd done. And she said, "Oh, it's even better than what I heard." And Jesus is saying, this Queen of Sheba, this Queen of the South, is going to condemn the religious leaders of Jesus's day, because she responded to the message. And obviously, Jesus is far greater than Solomon. Another thing for us to take a quick look at, or for us to think through, is that the people of Nineveh are non-Israelites. In fact, they were enemies of the Israelites. And then we look at, in the days of Jonah, then we look at the Queen of Sheba. She is a non-Israelite. She comes from afar. She's a Gentile, and she's coming away. And Jesus is saying these two Gentiles, the Ninevites who repented at Jonah's preaching, and the Queen of Sheba, who is also a Gentile, they're going to condemn the religious leaders, the Israeli leaders, in the time of judgment, because somebody far greater than Solomon and Jonah is there. It is Jesus Christ. Jesus is saying, "You should have listened to me. You're asking for a sign. What more can I give you than I already have? You'll know that I'm the one when I die and when I raise again." And then we see in the book of Matthew that they try to hide that very fact. So the scriptural insight is unbelievers refuse to see what is already plain to them. The Pharisees have seen signs, but they want another one. So then my prayer is, God, open the eyes of our lost friends. You have to realize that they are an unbeliever and they cannot see, they cannot understand. And so your prayer for them is for God to open their eyes. And so an application for ourselves, that is, of course, one of, I just mentioned, to interact with our lost friends. And so that would be, I will be patient with those who refuse to believe. We can't expect someone who is an unbeliever to be reasonable in some of the things that they say. And then secondly, I myself will approach God in humility when seeking guidance, when I'm wondering, why is this happening? Lord, can I get some help? Can I get some direction? Make sure you have the attitude of John the Baptist in your days of doubts rather than this arrogant attitude of the Pharisees. Come in humility and seek God's guidance and be okay with whatever he has given you. For us Christians, we need to realize too that a lot of the times when we come to the Lord for answers and guidance and direction, a lot of the times the answer has always been right under our nose. We essentially know the answers. We've read the scriptures, we've heard the preacher say this or that, and it's just really in our blindness and in a refusal to do what he asks us to do. So we also have to remember when we come to the Lord, a lot of times he's already given us the answer. We just need to look at what he has actually already given us. So come to the Lord with a humble heart. Come to the Lord in humility. Pray that's been a blessing to you, and I'll see you in the next video.